Yeah, food is what I'm going to talk about, and hunger is what I see in on the faces of my audience just before the lunch. So I'm going to keep it short and will be telling you about my journey in food and computational gastronomy. I'm very sure you must have heard about other domains of life which have gotten transformed with the help of computation and data science, which you have been hearing about all this day yesterday as well. But then talking about food, which is qualitative, subjective, and emotional through the lens of data, is something which is unusual. And that is what we have been doing in my laboratory at IIIT Delhi. I am Ganesh Bagler. I am part of Infosys Center for Artificial Intelligence at IIIT Delhi. And one of the things people think about when I talk about food is that I must be a foodie. Turns out that it is not the case. I have grown from being an agnostic person about food to someone who loves food over a period of time. And as a teenager, I always wanted to be an astronomer. So, pun intended, it has been a journey, a long journey from astronomy to gastronomy. Having said that, let me take you into my subject matter, which is food and cooking. Now, you might be wondering, what has food and cooking got to do with AI and data science? And that is what computational gastronomy aspires to do. When you think about anything that you love, any dish that you love, turns out that it is a product of long history of cultural evolution, which has taken centuries, if not millennia, to come into its existence to what it is today. Think about the dhoklas, the idlis and vadas, and any other dish that you might want to like from any part of the world. So, understanding this food from a data science perspective is something which is unusual, and every dish is nothing but combination of raw ingredients to create a delicious dish out of it. And it is central to what we are as a homo sapien, human beings, right? It has been argued by Richard Wrangham that what we eat is something which is extremely central to what we are. The cooking, the act of cooking, similar to languages, defines us as humans. And this is a true fact, because what we eat, the cooked food, is digested outside the stomach in the kitchen, and that is what decides what we are as a homo sapien, incidentally. Having said that, despite, other than the fact that it is central to the act of being human, the other fact is that it is ironically has become central to what we have become today: obese, suffering from diabetes and type 2 and the cardiovascular disorders, the lifestyle disorders. So diet is central to these disorders as well, and we need to understand therefore what food is in 21st century through the lens of data. And lastly, one of the reasons why it is important for us to look at food, cooking, and every aspect of food through the lens of data is because it is central to the survival on earth for homo sapiens. I do not know why Elon Musk wants to go to Mars, but remember that even if you go to Mars, we will have to eat something, and I don't think we'll be eating pills. We'll be still eating traditionally cooked food when we go to the Mars. I hope so. Well, this is where computational gastronomy comes into the play. It looks at food and cooking through the lens of data and computing. Think about it. Various aspects of our life have gotten dramatically changed with the introduction of data and computation, like Google Maps. When you Nobody in the audience must have used physical maps today to go from point A to point B. We are using Google Maps, and that has been possible because in the last 20 years of its existence, they have collected data, the GPS coordinates and navigation from point A to point B, to tell us how fast we can move from point A to point B in a most efficient manner. Can we understand food exactly in a similar manner is the question that we are asking. And while we do so, we are looking at various facets of food, such as the traditional recipes that we consume, the nutrition, health aspect of it, and of course the flavors, because what we consume like an ingredient is used in the recipes because of its taste and odor. So all of these are important factors that are accounted for when we are looking at food through the lens of data. And remember, in computer science or in AI, if you want to call it that way, nothing can be productively done in the absence of data. As they say, garbage in, garbage out. So we need to collect large amount of data on different facets of food, including that of traditional recipes, flavors, nutrition, health, and sustainability, the carbon footprints of the recipes. And while doing so, in the last 11 years, what we have been able to do is to collect one of the most structured, curated data on different facets of food. For example, the recipes. You can think about how many recipes are there across the whole world. That I am leaving you as a question. We'll come back to that in a moment. We have been able to collect more than 500,000 recipes from across the globe, which is part of this database called RecipeDB from 100 different countries. And this is not any other digital cookbook. It is a structured database which is AI driven, because we have extracted different elements which are relevant from a culinary perspective. The name of the ingredient, the quantity, unit, pre-processing, cooking action, temperature, utensil that we are using, etc. All of these have been meticulously extracted to create this structured database called RecipeDB. And exactly in a similar manner, we have compiled the database of flavor molecules, nutritional value, and other aspects that have been put together in FlavorDB and DietRx and Sustainable Food DB. And quite clearly, when we collect these data, the intention is to build algorithms and applications which are going to be meaningful. I'll be mentioning some of those as I go forward. I must proudly mention this, that my lab, the Complex Systems Laboratory, is considered the pioneering lab in this area across the globe. You must have heard about various scientific disciplines and scientific concepts which have come out of different parts of the world, primarily from Europe and America. But computational gastronomy is something which has arisen out of India and is accepted by the globe. So I must proudly emphasize that fact while we are talking about this on the juncture of data science and AI. The mission and the mantra with which we are working is called making food computable. The idea here is that can we convert every aspect of food in a computational paradigm such that we can ask questions which are relevant from a nutrition, health, taste perspective as well. And this journey of making food computable started way back 11 years back when we started looking at Indian recipes and asking what makes Indian recipes so special. If I were to combine ingredients, raw ingredients, I will end up getting an Indian recipe or a French or a Brazilian or a Mexican recipe. So, is there something unique about the way India cooks its food and creates dishes and delicacies? That's a question we should be asking. Turns out that interesting analysis that has been done by looking at recipes, ingredients and their flavor molecules has shown that the way European and American recipes are typically made is by way of what is called as uniform or positive food pairing, by combining ingredients that are of similar taste in a dish. When we investigated Indian recipes way back in 2015, we found that the Indian recipes have a different pattern altogether. They tend to combine ingredients that are of contrasting flavor together to create a typical Indian dish. Many of us who are in the audience would obviously appreciate this fact that yes, indeed we know that a typical Indian recipe is a potpourri of flavors, right? But we quantitatively, using a data-driven approach, ended up showing it by investigating only 2,543 recipes from different parts of India. We call them as the culinary fingerprints of different regional cuisines of India. Having collected and investigated Indian recipes, we in fact analyzed it further to identify what aspect or which ingredient category out of vegetables, the dairy, spices, lentils, fruits, flowers, etc. makes Indian recipes so unique. And we found that of all the ingredient categories, if there is one category which is so special for making it unique and characteristic, idiosyncratic of Indian flavor, then it comes out to be the spices, which again is commonsensical, I must say, and is not the quantity of the spices but the placement of the spices. What we showed statistically that you can't arbitrarily take out cardamom and put clove, or take cardamom out, clove out and put cinnamon in there. You will end up losing the characteristic mathematical pattern called food pairing in the Indian recipes. That's why we declared that spice is the taste of India. So we essentially showed that spices are the molecular fulcrum of Indian recipes using data-driven analysis that was done roughly 11 years back. And this research, when we did it, turned out to be something which is social media, created a social media frenzy, and it was trending number one on social media and was highlighted by none other than MIT Technology Review as an emerging technology. To me, as a professor working in IIT Jodhpur at that time, was a surprise about why a curiosity driven research will be counted as an emerging technology. But we realized that there is an opportunity for us to create a new science here wherein food and cooking can be blended with data science and computer science. That was beginning of my journey as a computational gastronomer, a term that I coined later and in retrospect is well known globally now. So we didn't stop at India. India was the beginning point for us for investigating what makes it so special. But we went ahead and collected global recipes. At that time, we had 118,000 recipes that we had compiled from different parts of the world, and we found out their culinary fingerprints of the recipes which come from different parts of the world, showing that every cuisine, as we can imagine intuitionally, has its own uniqueness, and it can be shown using a data driven approach, using quantitative fingerprinting that we have done for the various recipes of the world. Now, I must say proudly that it is acclaimed across the world, and conferences are being held in Italy, Korea and America, where they are talking about computational gastronomy as a new discipline which can transform the way we look at food and how we eat the food. And to my pleasure, we were on the cover of various international as well as national magazines. And for me, this was sentimental because this Science Reporter magazine is something which, as a teenager, I used to read and used to be the window of the world of science and technology. So being on the cover of such a magazine was something which was a pleasant surprise for me. Now, let me tell you about what is possible, because I have been telling you about the fact that food and cooking can be seen through the lens of data, which many of you may not agree with. Because I know that when you think about food, you will be thinking about your mother, somebody you are emotionally connected with, and something which is so qualitative and subjective that thinking about making it quantitative and data driven is a cardinal sin. But no, we believe that different aspects of food can be made quantitative and AI driven. AI, as you must be listening to all the speeches in this meeting, has been our different aspects of our lives have been touched by AI, right from automation in different aspect of our life, right from Netflix to recommendations which are made on Amazon to the robotics. AI has touched on every aspect of our life. Can we therefore capture culinary creativity, which is so unique and special in Homo sapiens? Let us not forget that no other species on the earth can actually cook the food the way we do. It's so unique to us, like languages, right? So, talking on that front, what is creativity and what is AI after all? AI tries to capture human creativity and intuition in a program, in an algorithm. Can culinary creativity be captured is a big question, but before that, think about other aspects of our life which we consider to be creative. Playing a game of chess or Go is also considered to be a creative aspect of Homo sapiens, human beings. But then, in 1998, had you been asked whether AI or a computer program can beat the world champion, then the answer would have been a flat no. But turns out that IBM Deep Blue in 1998 ended up beating Gary Kasparov. But you might be saying that look, chess is a simple game of configurations. Therefore, it is easy for us to create a program which can optimize and learn how to play and win against human beings. What about other games? Go in 2017 was also another success story for AI. Incidentally, the game of Go, which is far more complex than chess. Think about poetry, painting and music, which are expressions of word composition, visual composition and auditory composition. All of you are all now aware that you can actually make poetry, painting and music with the help of AI. To some extent, every aspect of this has been taken over by AI. Remember, cooking is a very challenging ball game comparatively, because it involves not only visual aspect, auditory some extent, tactile, the touch aspect of it, olfactory, odor, and gustatory, the taste, which makes it extremely challenging because of these intertwined factors. Therefore, can we actually create an algorithm which can generate new recipes is the big question. But before that, think about it. How many recipes are there in the whole world across all the cultures? If I were to compile all of them, then the numbers are not in thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, but they are in millions. This number is not the right number, by the way. It's in of the order of few millions, but unfortunately it is not more than a million. Despite the fact that humans have been devising, creating new recipes for the last at least 15,000 years of agricultural revolution, the number of recipes is only millions. Can we create more recipes? Because given the fact that a typical recipe has 10 ingredients and there are at least 100 different, 1000 different type of ingredients available, I'm not counting for varieties of chilies and potatoes, putting them in a single basket. Despite that, we will have as many as 10 to the power 30, zillions and zillions and zillions and zillions of recipes that can be made. This is more than the number of estimated stars that are there in the whole universe. So it's a salivatingly large number of recipes that we can actually make by combining ingredients. But I know skeptics in you might be thinking that, but Professor Bagler, you can't randomly combine ingredients and get a tasty or a delicious recipe. What you need for that is intelligence, human intelligence, which is, I'm calling it as a chef's intelligence. So can a chef's intelligence, the way what a chef combines ingredients, he or she knows what goes well together and what doesn't go well together, can it be captured in a program? Can machines think? I don't know how many of you have heard about Alan Turing, one of the founding fathers of AI and computer science. In 1955, he wrote an article called Can a Machine Think? I am extending this argument by saying, can a machine think like a chef? And while doing so, we have created an first cut of our algorithm. I don't know how many of you have seen this movie Ratatouille, right? So by inspired by this movie Ratatouille, we call our algorithm Ratatouille. And this algorithm has been created by collecting a large number of unstructured recipes from across the globe over the internet, putting them together, structuring them using natural language processing, an aspect of AI if you wish to call it so, named entity recognition algorithms to structure them meaningfully. Further, we have created large language model based like ChatGPT based algorithms which can generate new recipes. Today you are aware that ChatGPT can actually give you recommendations of recipes, but we have been talking about it from year 2016 onwards and we have been building these algorithms. Ratatouille can actually give you new recipes and hopefully they are tasty, because the next question I know you will be having in your mind is that, Professor Bagler, it's one thing to have a recipe which is coming in front of you on a screen, it's another thing to be having it tasty. So we are working in that direction and we have tasted our algorithm with the help of chefs to see if our algorithm can fool a chef into thinking that AI generated recipe is actually real by reading it. And we have achieved a 70% success in doing so, and we hope to improve its performance going forward. Well, I believe that AI and data-driven approach can change the way we cook our food, the way we taste our food, and it can transform our culinary enterprise in a big way. Because if we can generate new recipes, we can generate recipes which are following a certain culinary style, Italian, Mexican, Indian. We can make them nutritional, having a certain calorific profile. We can make them rich with certain micronutrients such as iron, calcium, and anything that you would like to enrich it with. We can make it cost efficient. We can make it sustainable to lower the carbon footprint. All of these are future possibilities, and AI is going to make us, enable us to do that. So tomorrow the day is not too far when the world will have a tool like this where you can put your mobile phone on front of your platter, on top of your platter, and it will tell you what kind of dishes are there, what are the calorific profile, and based on what you have consumed throughout the day, what you should or should not consume next. So data driven delicacies is the future that I am portraying in front of this audience, which is here to listen about the new technologies, and computational gastronomy is the game that we are playing. While you might have heard about all of this, you must be thinking that this is coming out of a scientific laboratory. So what about the real world solutions? I, apart from being a curiosity driven explorer, which I have been for all my life, I have also become an entrepreneur. So Foodoscope is the new company that we have established. I'm a founder of the company, and this company right now works with food and beverages companies, FMCG companies, and is trying to create new products which are AI driven. And of course, we are also trying to give access to the data using the application programming interfaces, which is the modality which we have chosen with which we'll be working. So before I take questions, to close, I will be using a quote by none other than somebody called Brillat Savarin. Brillat Savarin was a French person who wrote the book Physiology of Taste. In fact, he coined the term gastronomy for the first ever time. It took us 200 years to reach from gastronomy to computational gastronomy. But I believe what he said 200 years ago still rings true, which is this, that the discovery of a new dish confers more happiness on humanity than the discovery of a new star. So while by becoming an astronomer and astrophysicist I could not discover new stars, I hope to discover new dishes to make humanity happier and healthier. So thank you. I will stop there and take questions from you. Thanks a lot. Yes, please.
Hi, Professor. Thank you for all the information. I have a question to understand that you have created a wonderful library, or you should say the information on the food and the combination of the food spices. So understanding the spices are a compound, the chemical compound. How do you came to a conclusion that the two compounds will create a different compound? So is that calculation is also been done?
Good point. So when we did this analysis of food pairing analysis, we looked at a recipe at the level of ingredients and set of molecules, flavor molecules, which are represented in chilies, potatoes, tomatoes, onion, garlic. Think about those, right? How two molecules themselves combine with each other to give rise to an emergent property is something that we did not account for. We, having got the data of recipes and what kind of cooking protocols that they are going through, boiling, roasting, sauteing, etc., we believe that that knowledge has been captured in the LLM that we have trained, the large language model that we have trained, and now we have that information with us. But we do not have the first principle, the physics or chemistry based principle knowledge about what happens to the molecules when they are combined. To answer your question.
Thank you.
Thank you. We had a question here.
Thank you, Professor Bagler. I have a quick question, actually. What did you have for breakfast? Or in other words, how did your research affect your personal diet?
That's a good point. That's a very good point. Thanks for asking me that question. Does my diet get influenced by virtue of the research that I have done? In a way, yes. As I said, first of all, I have over time learned to appreciate different facets of food which I did not do as an agnostic of food long ago. And when I eat my food, I still keep it more from the taste point of view and less from the nutrition point of view. But yes, I do use my app, which is not public yet, to figure out how much I am consuming on a day-to-day basis. And I believe that this will be a necessity in the world, including in India, which is sitting on a time bomb of type 2 diabetes. So what we are consuming has become necessary to compute and calculate and thereby take estimated measures. So to answer your question, yes, my research has influenced my personal way of looking at food over a period of time. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, there is a couple of questions there.
Yeah, actually two questions. One is, there is a lot of indigenous vegetables or fruits that have become sort of near extinct.
Yep.
Because market-driven habits were different. Is there a way to use your technology to resurface some of them, not just to use labels like superfoods, but and project, so aid in the revival of that? So that could be one sort of direction, and
Got it.
we could have a conversation later.
Yeah.
The second is regarding food waste. So a lot of food is wasted in different ways at different stages of the transportation and grading and
Yeah.
So can we somehow marry technology to also raise the awareness on the nutritional side of things rather than just the
taste part.
Taste part of it, you know.
I'll answer, I'll answer both of them. First, about the indigenous ingredients which happen to be there in all parts of the world incidentally, and over a period of time some of them are getting lost because of commercialization, and some ingredient becoming more popular versus the other. Point taken there. So our databases such as FlavorDB can help you find alternatives for an existing ingredient. So if I am using a certain kind of a cauliflower or a spinach or some other vegetable, can I have an alternative which is indigenous and is available locally, is something, and seasonal probably. Both of these can be accounted for by creating the databases. We are working on them, and they can be incorporated into recipes. Okay, millets is one of the example that we are working incidentally. So yes, the aspect of flavor, taste, let us not forget, let's not fool ourselves that nobody is going to eat food which is not tasty. Therefore, by using the FlavorDB as a basis, we can come up with ways by which we can nudge people into eating indigenous food and making them more popular than what they are already. And second question that you are asking, yes, our tool is used for reducing food wastage, not at the agricultural level, but let's say at the level of restaurant. The portion with which they are purchased are not used while cooking the recipes, and part of it is left over. Therefore, optimizing the menus in the restaurant is something that can be easily be done with the kind of data of recipes that we have, which is 500 million, 584,000 recipes that we have got. It can actually tell you what are the other recipes that you can make with the leftover ingredients that you have. Just for an example, I'm just showing you one. Yeah, one last question we can take. Yeah, there.
So I'd heard somewhere, I'd gone to some exhibition where someone was claiming he's making a startup for 3D printing of food. So what is your opinion on that, like using a 3D printer to make food?
Okay.
Are you able to tell on that?
Sure. First of all, food is getting automated and data driven over a period of time, and using 3D printing is one of the approaches. The other approach is automating the kitchen for at least the staple food that we consume on a day-to-day basis. There are two ways of looking at it. One is that we are moving towards a world where probably because of availability of easy access to cooked food, we may not have kitchens in our home. They are talking about today not only BHKs but only BH, no kitchen there, only the bedroom and hall. That's the world one is talking about. But at the same time, coming back to automation, I believe that automation is necessary at least to take away the drudgery of day-to-day cooking of the staple food, right? So there are 3D printers, there are machines which automate. You can put the pods of ingredients and they will make recipes. Can they make sophisticated recipes? Perhaps no, but they can make one pot recipes which are easy, like in Indian recipes, the rice and the dal and some of the curries that we make can be easily be made using such automated devices. Are they need of the hour? In my opinion, yes. Not for taking away the joy of cooking, that you can do any day if you wish to do it on a weekend or otherwise. But on a day-to-day basis, when you need to cook, if you need an assistant, then AI and data-driven approach using 3D and also 3D printers can help you in that. That's my take on it. Alright, so we are well within the time and we are done with the session. Thank you. Thanks a lot.